Alright everybody, putting up this short video for a friend. Had a couple people ask me to, so I'm going to. You don't see too many videos on YouTube about these plastic Briggs carburetors. There's so many bad descriptions, or what's the word I'm looking for? I hear a lot of people that are supposedly lawnmower mechanics and everything else say, oh, just throw them away, they're junk, this and that and the other. They are plastic. This one, the bolts here are stripped out because the previous person tightened them down too much. So they don't have problems per se. They're made kind of cheaply like anything else. And, you know, if you tighten them down too tight, they're naturally going to strip out. They're actually a pretty good design. It helps with a lot of carburetors that you see that are made out of the different metals that after time of sitting, they rust, they corrode. These could probably sit forever and never really corrode, or, you know, you could probably bring them back pretty easily. There's a friend of mine on YouTube that has this exact same carburetor. There's two different styles on the EX style carburetors. One has the automatic choke. This particular one, I was going to bring both of them in, but I've only got this style in stock. The other one will have a rod here and a little spring that comes back and catches this. And then there's a rod that runs over to a temperature thing on the exhaust. Don't know technical. I'm not good with technical terms, but anyway, this is the exact same style carburetor he has, and he was having a problem with the jet in there. There is actually two jets in this particular style carburetor. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people don't take them apart. And to begin with, on my first one, I didn't take it apart completely either. So I didn't know. Are we okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. I didn't know how to take them apart completely either. I just kind of took the bowl off, cleaned it, left it together, and then put it back together. From trial and error, I kind of learned myself on this particular carburetor. These are a newer style. They've not been out too awful long, so you're not seeing a lot of them right now, but they are getting into them because they're starting to get older. The tools we're going to be using today, you could either use a 7mm or a 9/32. Either one will work. They both fit. I didn't bring a can of carburetor cleaner in here with me, but you'll also need a can of carburetor cleaner, compressed air. You don't need a lot of compressed air. When you're cleaning these out, I had one that my trigger stuck and I pushed harder trying to get it to unstick, and I blew one of the jets, so I had to buy this piece in here for another carburetor. So just don't go trigger happy and squeeze too much air. Then just a little small pry screwdriver. This is my little trick of the trade. I learned it. It's not my idea. It came from somebody else. I told George about this and what I use. They make a smaller tip cleaner this is actually for torches, like for cutting torches and stuff. They make a smaller version, but the smaller version doesn't have as many tips as this one. The smaller version doesn't have this real tiny one, and that's what I was explaining to George. They get really, really tiny in this particular one. The small one doesn't go down all the way to the small size and doesn't go up. There's a big, I think the small one may have the same bigger one, but it doesn't go down as small. The person that I got this tip from, if you can see on some of these, like, we'll go with the larger one. It starts here and it's kind of a flat area here with no no teeth, no grit to it. What they usually do is they cut this first little part of the tip off, so it's you're automatically into the scraping part or the cleaning part of it. I haven't done that to these. I've not really ran into an issue where I needed it that bad. Usually you can get it far enough in there that it starts to grab. I didn't have a small one to bring in. I looked and all I had was the larger ones. Because I've started using the larger ones. I buy the large ones and don't even mess with the smaller ones. So I was going to show you the difference, but trust me, these larger ones have, I mean, you can see they have different sizes and more on them than the smaller ones. So that being said, that's what I use. I don't use those tip drills. Those tip drills are real bad about oversizing it, and you'll get your flooding issue that I've heard a lot of people. There was a forum that I went on, and the guy had flooding issues, and I, through questioning, we found out he used the tip drill and widened the tips in it. The orifices in these are real small. I've noticed in the larger mowers, cleaning them, I'll use like a an 8 or 10. I don't remember. It's like a 7. I don't know. Anyway, it's like a 28, I think, or some 28 millimeter or 28 thousandths or something. I don't know. I'll have to go back. Anyway, these are really small, and that's where a lot of people run into their deal, because they're able to make them smaller with the technology that has come out and get them to where they use less fuel, better economy with the smaller orifice. Which, with the gases today, with the ethanol and the water and everything that's in the gases, it just causes problems. And people say that they're just junk, but they're not. If you know how to clean one, you can actually bring it back. I had one that surged like crazy, wouldn't run, took it apart, and I cleaned it. And there's a spot in there that I didn't take it completely apart, and there was some junk up in there. And I'll show you on this what I did to get to that spot, clean it, and I've not had it come back. The lady's real happy with it, so I guess I've done something. But anyway, let's get this taken apart, and I'll show you. But like I said, a lot of people just say buy a new carburetor, but like I said, if you'll clean it like I have, I've never had one come back. And I tell all my customers to use the higher grade gasoline. Don't use 87. But anyway, that's where this little screwdriver comes in. Just get under there. There's a little O-ring in here that, will seal it. But anyway, we get into the internals of the carburetor. Here's the little, what do they call this thing? I was going to bring the receipt and show what it's called. But anyway, then you've got your float and your float pin. The older carburetors made out of the metal, when they rust, this pin's going to rust, even in this plastic one. But they've made it to where this one you can just either pop out. I don't usually do that. I didn't bring my little tweezers with me, but I usually grab it and slide it out to keep from tearing this up. But you're not going to really be in here enough to tear it up, I guess. But you can just pop that off, and then that'll bring your float out and your needle. Your needle will be right there on the bottom. It's got a little rubber, spin around here, got a little rubber tip on it. And then your pin. Butterfingers. Trying to make a video and I'm going to drop everything. But anyway, there's that part of it. Now, here to the little pod or whatever they call this thing. Like I said, I'm not good with technical terms. There's a spot on the back right here where you can pry. I've seen some, get in here and pry up there. You're not going to hurt it unless you really get to prying. But if you stick your little screwdriver right under there, that's where I do. And I don't pry up or down, I just twist. And it usually just pops right out. When you pull this out, this has a longer tube in it, and it goes up into this side right here. And there's a little plastic circular piece down in there. You got that, camera girl?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, if that gets twisted, the little thing won't slide back up in there. But we're going to take that out, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. But anyway, this is what the little thing inside looks like. And a lot of people don't clean this properly, and that's why they continue to have surging. Or one episode I got, or one forum that I got onto, a guy was having a problem with it, and all he done was clean this one and didn't realize that on the bottom there's another jet right there, and that jet goes right down in there and it itemizes or something the fuel. I don't know. I'm not real, like I said, I'm not real good with technical terms, but a lot of people don't realize that this is actually two pieces. You have your first jet right here, then you have your second jet, but the second jet comes off. If you take this little plastic piece, there's a little lip thing that catches it there. You pull it out, and when you do, there's three little holes right there that kind of itemize it in here. Well, if you know, I've had stuff get caught in there. And that's as far as I took this thing apart before. You know, I'd clean this one out, and I'd spray through this, and then I'd take my carburetor cleaner, and I'd, you know, or my air hose, and I'd spray it up through there, and you'd see the fuel come out. But what I didn't realize, I had one that I took apart, and I cleaned it 3 or 4 times. But right up in here between this jet and this hole to where you can get, there was a big piece of junk that had caught up in there. And I sprayed and I sprayed and I stuck my tip cleaner up there, could not get it out. Not realizing, because I, weighing in the error of caution, not wanting to tear something up or not being able to fix it, I was able to take my larger tip cleaner and take it and push it up through the hole, and then push that little ball bearing out. You push that little ball bearing, don't lose it though, and then as you see, you can get down into that little hole right there and clean right next to that orifice tube. Now I'll show you here. Oh, my tip drill cleaner come apart. Well, let's set that aside. Good thing I have my backup here. Anyway, I'll show you with one of these tip drills. That once you shove this through that hole, I got the wrong size. Let's go with the next to the smallest. Anyway, but as you see, if you look down in there, you might be able to see the, can you see it down in there, camera girl? But anyway, as you can see, they've made these orifice holes really, really small, and the least little bit of dirt clogs them up. But anyway, as long as you clean those 3 holes, clean that orifice tube, and clean that orifice tube right there, you shouldn't really have any problems. This hole is definitely bigger than this hole. Don't ask me why, but it is. But anyway, instead of shipping the whole carburetor to Old Missouri, I will probably just ship this little plastic jet and let him clean it good. Or I'll probably clean it before I throw it in the mailbox. But it'll probably be cheaper to send this than the whole carburetor. And really that's all he needs. Just pop his old one out, pop the new one in. But anyway, put that little bearing back down in there. It just pops right back in place. No big deal. But a lot of people don't think to take that out because junk will actually form up here in the top. And then all you're doing is when you spray the cleaner in there, you're actually just pushing it up beyond or past this orifice into this little area here. So then it just kind of floats there until you put it back on, and then it just... But like I said, this is not one of my ideas. I caught it from another, guy that's been doing it for years. But anyway, let's get back to that little piece there. This piece actually floats inside the carburetor right there. And if this happens to turn when you pull this piece out, that hole, there's a hole right there, that groove goes back there on that pin. And anyway, this goes through there, and then that will stick through the center of the carburetor. If that's out around, then this won't go back in. You'll know it whenever you first put this back and it drops down straight to the O-ring. You'll know that you've got it right. But anyway, I didn't bring my needle nose. It'll probably end up turning on me. Yeah, of course. Let's see if we can't. Then we get to fight with this. Any other time I'd have my needle nose and I could grab it and just kind of set it down in there, but now we get to try to drop it. Any other time I'd be real good at this, but I turn on the camera and it's like my fingers get bigger, my eyes get worse. There we go. Alright, see down in there, you can kind of see that there's, can you see? There's a hole right in the center, and it goes all the way through. So we've got that in there, right? This little piece right here will always come out on this side here. So if you're holding that in your hand, it'll always, and there's a little indentation in the carburetor here, so you'll know that it goes on that side. But see how it's already went past the O-ring, and then it just pops in. And then that's ready to go back together. But I'm actually, because the screws are stripped on this one, I'm probably just going to take this piece back out, clean it up real good, and send it to Old Missourian for his. And then you don't have to, then we don't have to pay for shipping on a full carburetor. We'll just send it on that little piece, since this one is already just stripped out and no good. But it all just pops back together. Just like that. And then you just... Now a lot of people... There's a little indentation right here. There's this little screw here that you could take out to drain the fuel out. I've found that it's really kind of hard to get to this on the carburetor while it's on the machine, so it's easier to just take it off. But this little indentation right here is there for this part to set down in there and actually pick the fuel up. It'll only go on there one way. This little rubber O-ring holds it pretty good, so there's no need to tighten it down and do all this forceful thing like they did on this one. I don't know why they stripped it out, but they did. And actually, they got sheet metal screws, as you can see, in it, so they put the wrong screws in it too. Anyway, but that's how that goes together. That's how I clean them. And like I said, with me cleaning them that way, I've never had one come back. As long as you take that little ball out and clean back in there, because that's just another spot for dirt and grime to stick to and hide until you fire it back up, and then it's back down in there. But anyway, just that little video to kind of let y'all know that you know how to actually clean these. And then it's just a process of putting it back on. There's 4 screws that hold it on, 2 sheet metal that actually go into the metal part, and then 2 plastic ones that go in here. So, or they're not actually plastic screws, but they're for plastic. They're not a sheet metal screw. There's my little video on how to do that. Thanks for watching, commenting, subscribing, and we'll see you on the next video.